became known to us in October 1999 as the Lady in the Mask, Pam Warren, one of the Paddington Rail crash survivors, who joins me live in the studio right now. Pam, absolute pleasure to meet you. Great honour as well. You've written a book about your life since then, From Behind the Mask, an unforgettable account of an unforgettable crash, is how Sir Trevor MacDonald has described it. You were very much the public face of that horrific disaster. Just after 8 o'clock in the morning on the 5th of October 1999, it was across all of our television screens, on the radio, it was in all the newspapers. For you, though, it was a life-changing experience. For the rest of us, we saw it, we heard the stories, and then we turned the newspaper pages and get on with our lives. But for you, it was an absolutely devastating, life-changing day, wasn't it?
Yes, and back then, while you were all reading it in the papers and in the hearing it on the radio and the TV, of course I was unconscious, so I knew nothing about it. But when I came to, most of the media attention had died down. But yes, it completely changed my life for the rest of my life, and it continued to do so.
Well, you were 32-year-old. You were a high flyer. You were living fast. You were working hard. You were doing very well in life. You were in the first class carriage. You were doing very well in life, when suddenly the train crashed. A fireball ripped through your carriage at 11 minutes past 8 o'clock that morning. I don't think any of us could ever imagine what that's like. We've probably seen Hollywood movies where things like that happen, and but we can't imagine anything. It's horrible to take you back to this horrible experience, but obviously it's something you've written about in the book. What went through your mind? What were your thoughts, and what did you think was happening when the train crashed?
To be honest, I still find it quite difficult to verbalise the actual train crash, but that's simply because I still suffer from post-traumatic stress. And it does trigger off some of my flashbacks. So,
well, you say whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, I go into depth because obviously I was conscious all the way through it. So I do explain everything I remember seeing, feeling and hearing. But I do remember at the time, although I was a businesswoman and I was earning quite a lot of money, and yes, I was travelling first class, I remember one of my last thoughts when I thought I was going to die was, it hasn't been worth it. Meaning that my life up until that point had turned into something I really wasn't comfortable with. I was quite materialistic. I'd grown up during the Margaret Thatcher years.
Bit of a yuppie.
Yeah. And money was good. I mean, that was what we were taught. You earned as much money as possible. And since then, after I recovered after the train crash, my outlook on life's changed a lot. I'm far less materialistic. Anything I get involved with has to have an altruistic outlook. If I can help people along the way, then I'm more than happy to do so. And I make far more time for people like my family and friends. They come first in my book now.
Yes, indeed, life-changing in many different ways. Well, when this fireball ripped through the train carriage, you got very badly burnt. You were helped by other people. You were able to escape through a window in the train. Someone came to rescue you. You were taken away by ambulance. As you say, 3 weeks in a coma, very badly burned, skin grafts. There was an infection. There was also double pneumonia. It is a miracle that you are with us here today. 3 months in hospital, but it was a whole month before you saw the true extent of the injuries that you had sustained, particularly to your face. And of course, those injuries in a way were what defined you in the public mind, didn't they? Because again, you were not aware of this at the time, but you were the face of the rail crash with this sort of plastic, this perspex mask over you to protect your face, which some very sensible folk, medical experts, put on you. What was the feeling when you finally realised the extent of your injuries? And could you go into a little bit about how badly injured you were?
Yeah, I mean, my hands and my legs I'd come to terms with because you can see those. And my face, although I knew there was something wrong, I could avoid mirrors, so I didn't have to look at myself at all. And I was very careful to avoid looking in mirrors. But eventually my surgeon at the time did say, you have to look. So I waited until I was alone and then took myself off into the ensuite that was attached to my hospital room and peered into the mirror and was horrified. I mean, obviously, I was used to how my face looked beforehand, and this was just a mess, an absolute mess. And this was quite a few weeks after the train crash. So I just thought to myself, well, how is my face ever going to look normal? But my surgeon was brilliant. I mean, he was the one that came up with the idea of the Perspex mask. And I actually remember turning around to him and saying, I'm vain enough to try anything. But he did explain at the time, you will have to wear it for 23 hours a day for 18 months at least to keep the scarring down. Yeah. Otherwise, the scarring would have been far more visible than it is today. And I did as I was told, which my mother's always said was very unusual for me.
Once you listened. But you were a very beautiful woman. If you don't mind me saying, you're a very beautiful woman once again. But the transformation is, given the extent of your injuries... Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. I have to say, sitting a yard away from you, it is extraordinary.
I have to say that, I mean, I am covered in camouflage makeup.
Oh, aren't we all done?
But I was going to say, I mean, camouflage makeup is no different to normal makeup, just a bit heavier. But yeah, I have to say that Perspex mask, this is why I keep it, because it's like an old friend. I cannot believe what it's helped me with. And even now, I get contacted by families where somebody else has been burnt. Not always in a crash or anything. It can be just a normal accident. And I tend to insist that I go to see them quietly, because I think it's far more powerful if they see me now. And so that I can say to them, look, if you do as your doctors tell you and you do wear the mask, this is what the outcome is. And I think that convinces them that they should do it, because it's not the most comfortable thing to wear.
I can imagine. So extensive injuries, you say it also affected you psychologically, the post-traumatic stress, but indeed perhaps a more positive outlook, and we hear this from many people who've gone through these life-changing, death-defying moments, and you thought you would die in that train carriage, and then to realise that perhaps there were other things that mattered in life. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since your recovery, in terms of, I know you're doing lots of work with charities, and what that means to you.
Oh, it means a great deal. I mean, when I was told by the doctors I could take some form of work, I still have to take my health into account. I can't work flat out all the time. And I do have a tendency to bite off more than I can chew, I have to say. So I retrained as a project manager. So now I can take on short-term projects for people, and I prefer to do that in the charity world. So I tend to work for people like the Dame Kelly Holmes Legacy Trust, and the Healing Foundation's another favourite.
And sort of using your business expertise that you had it from your previous work to channel it for good causes.
And also some of my experience of overcoming obstacles, overcoming hardship. So yes, I use all sorts of things that I've learned along the way. I've also taken up professional speaking, because I'm hoping that way I may help people then face life's challenges. It doesn't have to be something as big as a train crash. We all go through things now and then, but to view it in a different way so that you know that you're going to overcome them. Yeah. What else do I've got about 5 different things.
So it all sounds very, very busy. And by the way, along the way, you wrote this book, From Behind the Mask. Tell me why you decided to write the book. I mean, it's 14 and a half years on. Why did you decide to write the book now?
To be honest, I was asked to after the 10th anniversary. So I did. I sat down, but I treated it like a job of work. So I'd sit at my desk and I'd type away on a computer for 6 hours a day. And what came out wasn't good. In as much as I described everything, but I told it very much as a third person, and it was very wooden. It had no emotion. So I got so annoyed with it, I actually threw it away. I thought, no, I'm not doing this. And then in 2012, that's when I reread the manuscript and thought, actually, there is something here. This is a good story, I think. But this time I went back and rewrote it from the start, and I've poured myself into this one. So I tell people exactly what I was feeling at any given point in time. I even give my personal opinion on the people around me. And now I'm really proud of this book. I think it's got feeling, it's got empathy, but it also shows that I'm just a normal human being.
Well, it's got some extraordinary reviews. Dame Kelly Holmes talking about an emotional journey. Simon Weston, the Falklands War veteran, gone through similar experiences. He says it's a story of success, courage, bravery and fortitude. She has triumphed over a terrible adversity and come through. The book went on sale yesterday.
That's right.
Available in your bookshops now. It is, I have to say, an absolute inspiration, and you're a truly inspirational woman. Absolute pleasure to have met you. I'm sure the book will do as well as it very much deserves to do. Pam Warren, thank you very much for joining us
Julie.
here at LBC. Coming up after 3 o'clock, very very welcome to put your calls in 0845 6060 973 about Pam Warren. We're also going to go back to your calls about Tory councillor kicked out of his party for a Facebook joke likening burqas to bin bags. Oh yes, and the immigrants who are coming over here and taking our jobs. No, they're not. They're creating jobs. 1 in 7 new businesses in the UK is now being set up by immigrants. We'll talk about all of that, and you can as well on 0845 6060 973 on LBC, leading Britain's conversation.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
It's 3 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Simon Conway. The Deputy Prime Minister will go head-to-head with UKIP leader Nigel Farage live on LBC in the first leaders' debate on Britain's future in Europe. The hour-long programme will be